Hi everybody. Can you let me know if you can hear me or see me? Hi everybody, is there anyone there? Hi. Oh, we have a comment. Okay. All right. Well, it says there's a comment and one viewer. Okay. Oh, Jessica. Hello, Jessica. All right, we'll just wait for a few minutes while people join in, and then we'll get going. Where is everybody logging in from tonight? I see Jessica. I'm so excited about the class. You're in Nebraska. Hi, that's wonderful. I've never been to Nebraska. I am sitting in Ottawa, Canada. And so it's probably not nearly as warm as you're experiencing, although it's certainly not chilly yet. We'll just give folks a few minutes to connect. I hope I've done this right. I just went live, so Heather, if you're on and I've done this wrong, please let me know. All right, we'll just give it one more minute and then we'll get going. We did have quite a few people say that they were coming, so I'm just a bit concerned that I haven't done this correctly. So all right. Can folks hear me okay? Just somebody give me a thumbs up, please, in the comments. Oh, perfect. Okay. Well, I think we're going to get going then, and folks can join in. I wanted to start off by saying thank you very much for signing up for this live session. It's an interesting conversation to have, particularly as we're heading into, certainly in our area, a little bit of a down. Wondering if they're waiting for the live in the event. So Heather, let me know. Um, Thank you very much, Jessica. Heather, let me know that the live happens in the main part of the group and not the event. So I did the same thing. I've been kind of logged in starting at about 1:45. So hopefully folks will join us here. I see the numbers starting to increase. So my name is Bonnie Beach. I am a cookier, a baker. I do cakes, cupcakes, and cookies. And I have been a farmers market vendor for a couple of years now in our city's #1 market, voted 4 years in a row. And so the purpose of today is just to talk a little bit about my learning around being a farmers market vendor, how I came to the decision to be a farmers market vendor, and then some of the questions that I wish I'd asked myself before I got started, because there were so many things that I didn't know, and I guess the old adage is true, right? You don't know what you don't know until it's time to know it. So, so I'm gonna talk to you a little bit about. Oh, Heather's just texted me. Yep, just go live in the main group, not in the event. Okay, all right. So we're doing this right, folks. Okay, so I'm going to ask you all to think a little bit about some questions. I will share a presentation with the group after tonight's live session, and Heather will post that up in the files section. It's just some thoughts and musings. I am by no means an expert. This is my bird's eye view and my experience, but I think it might help others, because I really wished somebody had have, sat me down and had this conversation with me when I first started. So I want to talk a little bit about my own experience and what brought me to be a vendor. So several years ago, I retired from the federal public service. I was a senior executive, and I had a room full of people way smarter than me working with me, and I was very fortunate to have a great career. But when I finished that career, I decided I wanted to get into the baking business. So I started my own home-based bakery, and advertised in all of the social media places that one would, your neighborhood groups, Facebooks, those sorts of things. And it was like crickets. There was nothing. So I actually baked 300 cookies, and I walked around my neighborhood pulling a cooler full of cookies, knocking on people's doors and giving out free cookies, and giving them a little flyer, my name is Bonnie and I bake, and wondering if you need any baking in the future, please keep me in mind. And I will tell you that I didn't get a single order out of that. I got lots of thank yous. I had, people stop me, when I was walking my dogs later and say, wow, those are great cookies, but nothing. And then the very first person who said no thank you, that was to my cookie, that was my first foray into a bit of a rejection. And I'm going to talk about that in a little bit, and that's why I bring it up. But I have to tell you, I thought I was going to throw up. The idea that somebody didn't want a free cookie, I took very personally, and it made me kind of realize that I needed to get a little bit thicker skin. I mean, here I was, retired, I had 650 staff. I could have tough conversations with just about anybody. But when it came to something so personal that I baked, I found that really, really hard. So I decided, okay, listen, Chickie, if you're going to do this, let's really do this, and let's become a farmer's market vendor. And so I made the decision, and I have not regretted it. It's a lot of work. Trust me, it's a lot of work, but the rewards are well worth it. Okay, so let's talk about, is being a farmer's market vendor right for you? I would say to you that there are some questions that I might ask you to think about, that you would probably benefit in spending a little bit of time thinking about why you want to be a vendor. Is your story similar to mine in that you want to drum up business? Is it just something that interests you? Is there a particular market that you really like? What is it that's driving you? And kind of what is it that interests you? I mean, certainly some of it is money, but is there more to it than that? And one of the questions that I wish I'd asked myself was, would being a farmer's market vendor mean that I would have to give up custom orders? I do cakes, cupcakes, and cookies, and mostly cakes. I do a lot of cakes. And when I decided to become a farmer's market vendor, my first year I was by myself. My husband had yet to retire, and I was trying to do it all. I was trying to do all the baking, all the packaging, all the marketing, all of the social media, all the admin work, and then the farmer's market, he would come and help me on Saturdays. But I was still taking custom orders, and I have to tell you, I just about burnt myself out. So I think that asking yourself if being a farmer's market vendor might mean that you stop doing custom orders, are you okay with that? And if you decided you were going to be a vendor, what changes might you make to your current business model that would allow you and afford you the time to do all the baking, the packaging, all the rest of it, and still keep your other sideline, if you will, so the non-farmers market business, keep going? Because heaven knows that there is ample customers out there. You need to find them, and once they find you, you probably have a pretty solid base, and you can kind of go from there. The next question I think I would ask you is, what market do you want to be in? I found that it was very easy for me to be in the market that we're in, because I can literally walk there from here, from our home. It's right in the village that I live in. As I say, it's been voted Ottawa's #1 market for 4 years in a row. But looking at your own situation, are there markets in your area that interest you? Would you be a weekly vendor, a monthly vendor, a seasonal vendor? How often do those markets happen? Also, if you are visiting a market in which you're interested, how is the market overall? Is it clean? Is the market manager visible? Do the vendors seem happy? Do the vendors seem to get along with one another? I can't underestimate how valuable vendor community is, and I'll talk about that in a few minutes, but it's really important that you feel a sense of community and connection to the market, because it can be quite isolating otherwise. Also, kind of like, can you do this all on your own? I would suggest to you, depending on how busy your market is, it would be very helpful for you to have somebody with you. You're going to have to go to the bathroom. You're going to have more than one customer show up. You're going to be occupied with, a child who picks up a cookie and drops it on the floor. And so how do you manage that if you're, a sole person and, kind of trying to do it all? Another question I would ask myself is, can your current business model and space accommodate the extra workload? So do you have space for all the extra cookies to be drying? Do you have the equipment that you need to actually do the packaging, to do the labeling, to do all that's required for the market? And I'm not going to touch on cottage laws, because everybody's cottage laws are different. So I don't want folks to say, well, it's not like that in my state or province or country. I would just say, please make sure that you check with your own cottage laws. But I'm not a commercial kitchen, for example, and I'm okay to bake for our farmers market because I fall under the farmers market umbrella. But that's not the case in every instance. In some locations, you actually have to be baking in a licensed and public health certified kitchen. So I'm going to skip over the cottage law. This is a really good one. This question: do you have a capacity for sales? no doubt you're a rock star when it comes to baking, and you are doing a great job in your line of business. But I will say to you, being a vendor is different. It is about active sales. So no sitting down, really. No time on your phone unless you're using it for your Square or whatever your point of sale option is. But it's about saying good morning to people and chatting with people and kind of being really really engaged with them, so that you can establish a bit of a conversation. And usually, in my experience, if you can start a conversation, then people will stick around and they'll make a purchase. But there are very few people. Now we're losing people at great rate. Is everybody still able to hear me? Okay, hopefully you can. Um, uh, if you think about the average customer that comes to a farmer's market, they're not typically arriving to the market with the intent of buying cookies. Um, and so kind of figuring out, okay, good. Thank you, Andrea. Um, how you would say good morning to people and how you would interact with people. It's a very active sales approach. And so thank you, Marge. Thank you, Erica. It's really important to know yourself and know what you're comfortable with. I am not comfortable in sales. I am really not. I am not Heather Miracle who can, sell who knows what to who knows whom. That's not me. My husband, however, is stellar at it. So he does most of the talking when it comes to the sales stuff, and then when people are genuinely interested or have questions about the baking, then kind of passes on to me, and I tend to finish all the transactions. The other thing that we do is he handles all the money and I handle all the food. That way I'm not constantly washing my hands, because we do obviously need to have a hand washing station. Money is very, very dirty. So I think that, having that in mind and thinking about knowing that you need to be an active salesperson, I think is really, really important. And so you'll lose 100% of the sales that you don't try to make. To a little bit of a spin on the Wayne Gretzky, 100% of the shots quote. But if you are, interacting with people, you'll do far better at your sales for sure. Okay, how's everybody doing so far? Right pace? Are you getting what you were hoping out of this? Okay, I'm going to keep going unless somebody says, Bonnie, this stinks. Okay, so choosing the right market for you. So if you think about, now you've decided you want to be a farmer's market vendor, how do you choose your market? I'm doing great. Thank you, Erica. How do you choose your market? Do you look for a market that's close to you? There is a real advantage to being close to home. You don't have to drive as far. You don't have to worry about, traffic jams or construction. But maybe your local market isn't big enough and it's not busy enough. And if you do want a busier market, just be prepared that your competition is probably going to be there as well. At the market in which I vend, I am the only baker there that does sugar cookies. There is an occasional baker that comes in, but I've kind of cornered the market on the sugar cookies. And so it's been very advantageous and very good for my bottom line. But visit markets that you think you'd like to be a vendor, and then figure out, when you look across the market, do you get a sense that there's a market culture that you can relate to? Does it feel like it would be a market that you would thrive at? There is no doubt that busier markets, you're probably going to make more money, but it probably is more stress, and it's probably more inventory. And more inventory means more time in your kitchen, and it means less time enjoying the summer months, which is when we have our farmers market. I think it would be great for you to talk to other food vendors if you decide you want to be a vendor at a particular market, and they'll give you the skinny on what it's like to be a food vendor there, because food vendors are very different than jewelry makers or weavers or sewers or craft beer. Food vendors, we bake Wednesday through Friday, no sleep, Wednesday through Friday, so that everything is fresh for the Saturday. Um, and so talking to another food vendor would give you a sense of, what the clientele is like. Is it consistent? Those sorts of things. And then coming back to competition, so are there other bakers there? We have one baker in our market, for example, who does exclusively gluten-free. I offer gluten-free every other week, and I would say that it's been very, very helpful to have that option. And I would say that when I make a gluten-free option, it almost always sells out. I'll talk in a few minutes about kind of what you might want to consider selling, but I thought I'd mention that. Do the other vendors appear friendly? I think it's really important that you kind of establish early on whether or not it would be a helpful and friendly market at which to vend, because we have a big one here in Ottawa, and my fellow vendors at the market that I'm at say it's a cutthroat farmers market, and it's a farmers market. Like, it's in Ottawa, to be deemed a farmers market, you have to have 30% agricultural vendors, and so it's truly it's a farmers market. But apparently the vendors aren't helpful to one another. They cut. If a client asks if they have a given thing, they won't say no, but Bonnie has it over there. Like, apparently they don't do that. Our market does that. Like, they're very, very good. So my recommendation, if you're just starting into this, is start at a smaller market. Kind of cut your teeth on a small market, figure out what it is that you can offer as a vendor, figure out whether or not it's for you. The cost is usually less, and you learn as you go. The other thing to consider is whether or not it's an indoor or an outdoor booth that you would have. I have a permanent indoor booth. I pay almost double what the outdoor booths pay. But every week I pack up my inventory, I bring it to the market, I set up, and what I don't sell I bring back. And I leave all of my stuff set up. I don't have to deal with the weather. I don't have to deal with the potential for melting sugar cookies or spoiling food. So there's real advantage if you have an opportunity, in my opinion, to be an indoor vendor, particularly as a baker. And I know some of our friends in the sugar cookie marketing group, there are a lot of them that are, across the U.S., particularly in the southern parts. And I can't even imagine trying to sell my sugar cookies in that heat and that sun. They would just melt. The other thing to consider is know your target market. So would the customers who visit a given market pay your price for cookies? There's no doubt there are more affluent neighborhoods, and people would probably pay, so I charge $5 a cookie. And I'll talk in a few minutes about what I bring each week, but there are people who visit my stall, and mostly elderly folks, and mostly they will say, I'm not paying that for a cookie. So they're not my customer, and that's okay. I know my worth, I know my value, and so I just recognize that they're not my customer, and I don't take offense to it anymore. First year I did, I'm going to be honest. But now I just say, I appreciate the fact that, you might find that a little bit expensive. You're paying for my skill and my time, and not just for a cookie. And I can assure you that they are as tasty as they are attractive. Something along that lines. So figuring out kind of where your client base is very important when you choose your market. The other thing I would say is the application process can be a little bit confusing depending on the market. Certainly in our market, I had to submit samples only virtually, so pictures of my wares, and a jury actually went through and said yes, no, maybe it aligns with our business, maybe it doesn't. So in the write-up for this talk, you probably saw the name of my business, Sabrina. Yeah, so it's exactly. I mean, I can't even imagine trying to sell sugar cookies in that heat, right? So the name of my business is Sweet and Naughty Delights. So the sweet part is family-friendly baked goods, so cakes, cupcakes, cookies. The naughty side is a niche market that I have kind of carved out for myself in Ottawa, let alone this, this section of Ottawa, in that I offer adult-only baked goods. So think about anatomy and think about various parts. I bake those and I decorate those and I have a heck of a lot of fun doing those, but I never bring those to the market. And so when I applied to the market, the jury members got onto my web page, and I have an adult-only section that says, you must be 18 or over to view the following baked items. And I think I have 3 warnings. But if you get there, you're going to see stuff. And I made a commitment, obviously, to the jury that I would never bring that sort of stuff to a farmer's market. And nor do I actually talk about that. But if somebody asks me about my business name, I will tell them, that I do family friendly and adult only. But kind of, understanding the application process and the fact that there may be a jury, just don't be frightened by that. That's a very common thing. All right. So what will you sell? So as I mentioned earlier, I do cakes, cupcakes, cookies. And I'm clearly not going to bring a cake to the market. I would never sell a whole cake for what I charge for custom orders. And I'm not interested in cutting up slices and putting them, into packages. So I bring what I think is a perfect formula for me. I bring 2 drop cookies or a bar, depending on, like brownies or blondies or whatever. I bring a minimum of 2 decorated sugar cookies, and I bring a minimum of 2 cupcake flavors. And I will tell you from my experience, I had to do a deep dive analysis of my own sales. The first couple of weeks in, I had this fabulous plan of everything that I was going to bake, my drops, my sugar, my cupcakes. Oh my God, I was so prepared. And I had a couple of markets right at the very beginning when I started, and things weren't selling. And I thought, I don't understand. Like, I've got really pretty cookies, and I've got really like beautiful rosette cupcakes, and I couldn't figure out what was going on. So, my name is Bonnie, and I am a data geek, and I absolutely live by data. I keep a spreadsheet on every market, what inventory I'm bringing. How well it sold, what I was left with, how I sold it, did I have a flash sale after, did I repurpose it? I'll talk about that in a minute. How am I dealing with the things that are selling and the things that aren't selling? And I did that by doing a deep dive analysis of my own data, of my sales and my inventory. Nerds unite, woohoo! Computer science, MBA, what can I tell you? I love data. And so I started looking at what sells. And I have to tell you that simple sells. So let me show you a cookie, a picture of a cookie that I made for Mother's Day that first year. And I thought, oh my God, that is so pretty. Look at that. Beautiful. It was lilac season. So pretty. Just loved it. Fellow data geek, yay Marge! And I didn't sell one of those cookies. It was Mother's Day. I had a little tag on it. And, oh, Erica, God love you. Not a single thing. You know what sold? I have to tell you. Poop emojis. Anything with a face. You could have the cutest strawberry in the whole world. Doesn't sell. Slap 2 eyes and a smile on it. That sucker, that sells. Just like that. Why? Because the demographic for sugar cookies at farmers markets skews towards the kids. So the kids aren't interested in the pretty cookies. The kids are interested in the animals. They love the animals. They love the animals. They love anything cute. The funnier the better. The poo-poo emoji, the silly animals. They love all of that. The parents will go gaga for something like this. because it's kind of a whole set, and they can buy it and it's cute. But if you look at what really sells, it's the cute stuff. And that goes for the cupcakes. So a lot of my cupcakes are animal cupcakes, pigs, turkeys, beavers, all those sorts of things. But they take time, man. Oh, a rosette, you can slap, 36 cupcakes with rosettes in about 4 minutes. Decorating a little porcupine, that takes a lot of time. So just understanding that will help you, but your data will help you decide what's selling and what's not selling. The other thing I would say is packaging. Big question about packaging. Fancy packaging or not fancy packaging? That is the question. Farmers market, not fancy packaging. I heat seal every one of my sugar cookies so that they are fresh. I've perfected my recipe that once I heat seal them, they stay perfectly fresh for 2 weeks, like I baked them that morning, and pretty fresh for 3. And that's a huge selling feature when somebody asks how long my cookies last. And I will tell you, oh, good, thank you, Sabrina. Oh, it hasn't been the greatest experience. Oh, I'm sorry. Happy to chat afterwards, Sabrina, if you have any particular questions. I'm not an expert. I'm just kind of giving you things that have worked for me. So hopefully this helps. Packaging like Mother's Day, Father's Day, end of school year, teachers' gifts. You have 4th of July. We have Canada Day. I put bows and I put bag toppers on those, but I do not, for the most part. No, pretty well never. Do I do anything other than heat seal the cookies? I don't have the time, and it doesn't yield the results and the return because those cookies are opened before the child even leaves my table. 99% of the time. And I will say to you that I have the same customers week after week after week. I have a fabulous location so that when you come in the main barn of our farmers market and you look down the hallway, my booth is right at the end of that hallway. And I'm going to talk in a minute about how I set up my booth. But those kids make a beeline to my booth every single week. And Miss Bonnie, what do you have this week? And it's all about cute and kind of the more fun, the better. I will tell you, superhero stuff doesn't sell that great. Not everybody's into superhero. A lot of parents don't like the stereotyping, and I get that. So I've tried different superhero cookies. They haven't really sold. Neither has comic book type cookies. So just to let you know. So if you're not going to showcase your best work at a market, and you're thinking about custom orders, and you're thinking about non-market season business, this is what I do. My business is all about pink. My tables are pink. My backdrop is pink. I ordered backdrops off of Amazon. They were $15 Canadian. I have a 6-foot booth, so I ordered 2 panels. They go immediately behind my booth, and you'll see that I have them for every single season. This is my granddaughter and I. We did Christmas in July theme, so you'll see that I have the backdrops. It's amazing how many people compliment us on our backdrops, and it's amazing how many other vendors come up and go, oh my God, that's so simple. And yet it changes the whole look of your booth. If you have an outside booth, that may be a little bit harder, but you could attach it to your canopy. These are actually just photo backdrop kind of panels, and they do have stands that you can attach them to as well. So coming back to the market isn't the place to showcase your best work. You're not going to get the money for your cookies. You're going to get money for your simple cookies and something with a face. Doesn't matter what it is. Truly, honestly, could be a John Deere tractor, and you slap a face on that, it's going to sell. So how do I showcase my other work? So I have a photo album. Again, our brand is pink. My husband wears a pink apron, which he tells everybody is salmon. It's not, it's pink. And that in itself is part of his marketing ploy, because he really, he goes through this shtick about it's not pink, it's salmon. And people, we have customers and other vendors who come up and go, nice pink apron. And then he'll draw them in and make a sale. So I have a book, a little photo album, and in there I have my business name, and I have photos of cakes, cookies, cupcakes, you name it, and everything in here are things that I have baked. So if somebody says to me, do you do cakes? I'll say, oh yeah, I do cakes, but I can't bring them here because, for obvious reasons. But if you check out my book, you can see the things that I have available. And that will almost always result in an order. Very few people look at the book and don't place an order. It just, they're interested enough to look at the book, so they're pretty interested in ordering. So I always have order forms available, and I have business cards. The other thing that I had made is this unbelievably cute business card holder. So another vendor at our farmer's market made this for me. It's a cupcake because, as I say, I do cupcakes. But I try to have things that other vendors don't have. So they don't have photo books. They don't have really sweet little business card holders. I'm trying to stand out in the event that there's somebody else baking, so that I can say, please look for us. We're the Pink Booth. Our name of our business, we're the Pink Booth, and you'll see us with the pink backdrop and, kind of really talk it up that way. It's been my experience that having my formula works for my business. So 2 drops, minimum 2 sugar, minimum 2 cupcakes. And I bought at Costco one of those clear bakery boxes, and I put my photo album in front of it so nobody can lift it up because there is a handle at the front, and I serve from the back. And I would say to you that I do equal business between my cupcakes and the combination of drop cookies or bars and the decorated sugar cookies. I make as much in my cupcakes as I do with the cookies. So if you have any skill at all in baking cupcakes, or if you want to head into that direction, you might really do well financially as a result. So the first year that I started as a vendor, I went way overboard. I had so much baking. I had there's a little fly. I had cookies coming out my wazoo. I had bars. I had hot cocoa bombs. Nope. I needed to streamline. And so my data, all my data geeks, my data kind of helped me figure out what sold and what didn't sell. And I started really honing in. So I have a master spreadsheet of all of my recipes. That's one of my golden retrievers that you're hearing. That's not me. So I have a master spreadsheet with all of my recipes and all the links. And I have in each column, excellent seller, good seller, okay seller, not a good seller, don't make this again, haven't tried yet. And every time I come back from a market, I will update that spreadsheet to say, look, my lemon bars are, and you know what, they're Sally's Baking Addiction. They're not even my lemon bars, but the lemon bars that I make are the things that people ask for almost every week. I think if I made them every week, they would sell out, but I don't bring them every week because I want to kind of have a little bit of variety. So kind of knowing what sells in your area will be driven a lot by your own data. So what do you do with leftovers? The first year I walked around and gave them out to other vendors as a goodwill gesture. So just my fresh baked stuff. So the drop cookies and the bars and the cupcakes, I gave them away, probably for half the season. And then I discounted my sugar cookies to kind of move them out. I now have 4 upright freezers in my home, and 3 in my home and 1 in my garage. And I stuff that thing. It's full. And I no longer give stuff away. unless it's something that's really not moving and bringing it back really isn't going to help. I will hand it out to other vendors, not customers. Don't give out free inventory at the end to your customers. They will know that. They will only come at the end of the market and get freebies. So don't do that. Give it to your vendors after all the customers are gone, the market's closing down, everybody's cleaning up. That will buy you so much goodwill. It will really create a fantastic relationship with other vendors. What I do is, for example, I had a customer who asked me to bake hermit bars. My grandmother used to make them. It has raisins and cinnamon and molasses. It's kind of like a ginger snap bar with raisins in it. It did not sell well at all. And this woman that asked me to bake them, my God, she came and got one stinking bar. I almost died. And I had, two 13 by 9 pans that I'd baked. So I took them home. I stuck them in the freezer. And about 4 weeks later, I pulled them out and I put a cinnamon glaze on top. And I relabeled them as cinnamon glazed ginger bars. Sold out. It's amazing, again, depending on your cottage law, right, whether or not you can bring these things back. In our area, we're able to. It's amazing if you think about how you would, like in your own kitchen, right? You've got leftover chicken. What are you going to do with the chicken? You're probably not going to make the same thing the next night, but you're going to repurpose it. So leftover inventory, I repurpose. If I baked for an order and the order, for whatever reason, this happened more during COVID, because we continued to have our markets during COVID. Somebody said, everybody's sick. There's no birthday party anymore. And if somebody had, said, can I get a refund? First of all, I don't give refunds, ever. I don't give refunds. And I don't turn on my oven unless people pay me up front. What I do is I say I will, credit you an amount for a future order. So I take that inventory and I bring it to the market. Sugar cookies, that's a little bit more difficult. You've got a poo-poo emoji. If you bring it back, it's still a poo-poo emoji, and it's still packaged as a poo-poo emoji. But it tends to sell. And I don't get too fussed about there being only 2 poo-poo emojis left and, 2 of some other cookie. I sell those 2 poo-poo emojis and they go. So I keep my sugar cookies kind of going, if you will. You could have a flash sale, and I did that. But my experience was I actually lost money, because then it isn't just the ingredients. And we all know, right? Butter, eggs, the cost of those 2 alone are just astronomical. And so the idea that I would be giving stuff away or discounting it so deeply that people would take it off my hands, if you will, drove me insane. So nope, I bring it back into the market. So I recommend you have a plan for the season. Keep really good data. I'm happy to kind of like show you what I use as far as my, just the market planning. So you'll see what I have here is I have, the cookie, the decorated cookie, the cupcakes, the inventory that I have, what's left to bake and decorate, what am I selling, has it been designed yet, what's the price point, what's the potential profit, total units sold, inventory left over, and then actual profit. So I have this for every single market of every single season. And then I can do pivot tables. I can do analysis on is the price point right. So let me tell you what my prices are. So I'm in Canadian. So all the drop cookies are $3. So whether it be a drop cookie or a bar, they're $3 each. And my drop cookies, yes, I can absolutely include that chart. Yeah, Marge, I will do that. And it's got formulas in it, so you can just plug and play your own information. All of my drop cookies are $3. All my sugar cookies, regular size, are $5. And jumbo cookies are $6. And they sell. They sell. On a good weekend, I can make $900 in a market. depending on how much inventory I bring, clearly. An average market is somewhere between $500 and $600. And that's, for 4 hours. I'm there for 4 hours on a Saturday. But there's 40 hours of work to get me to the 4 hours. So I don't want you to think that, oh my God, it's only 4 hours, woo, and I'm all done, because it's not. There's a lot of work. And I'll talk about that in a minute. So have a plan. Be prepared to throw the plan out the window based on your own analysis. But I would say it would be prudent for you to visit other baking stalls, figure out what they're selling, but do not get swayed by somebody else's prices and somebody else's skill level. Support them. It's okay. I point other people to other bakers, and I'm comfortable in that because I'm confident in my own product. And I know that if I'm making $500 week after week, which pretty well I am, maybe they're only making 200. So I make 480 and they make 220. It's about community. It's not about competition. I really, truly believe that. It's the same motto that we have in sugar cookie marketing, right? So know your worth, but also it's about community, not competition. So based on your sales, adapt your plan, because you're going to need to. You're going to throw it up in the air. You're going to be really frustrated, but stick with it, because your plan will actually you'll start to see patterns. And the other thing I would say is, don't get discouraged by a bad day. Earlier this season, we had a really crappy Saturday. A local fair was on. The community garage sale was on. The road in front of our, leading into the farmer's market, was under construction, and it was raining. So everything, it was a perfect storm. Everything that could go wrong did go wrong. I made $150. I just about died. And I thought, Bonnie, you need to remember you're in this for the long haul. You're looking at your average over a season and not a given Saturday. So don't get discouraged by a bad Saturday, because a bad Saturday in sales may still be a good Saturday in custom orders. So just look at it a little bit differently. It isn't just the bottom line. I mean, heaven knows it's the bottom line. Otherwise, we wouldn't be doing this. But it's not just about the bottom line, is what I would say to you. The other thing I'd like you to think about is donations. So you're out in public, right? So you've got a booth. The market is going to ask you for donations. So this summer, I donated 2 slab cakes that I normally charge between $180 and $200 for. And the market asked me if I would do one for Canada Day. They asked me if I would do one for opening day. And then they asked me if I would do one for, I think it was fall harvest or something. And I donated 2 cakes. And I did that because I cut the cake, left my husband back at the booth with his salmon apron. I cut the cake. I talked up my business. I asked them if they enjoyed the cake. I got orders out of it. 100% I got orders out of that free cake. What I don't do is give out free cookies to organizations as a rule. So I am a multi-time cancer survivor. For those of you who know me, I went through cancer treatment again just this past March, chemo, whole 9 yards. So I have a soft spot clearly for cancer fundraisers. So I will almost always donate to those. But the baseball team is having something. The Girl Guides are having something. Somebody's auntie is having something. Know in advance that you're going to be asked for donations and figure out whether or not you actually want to give or not. And it's perfectly valid. Whatever you want to do, just be prepared for it. The other thing I would say when it comes to selling is try where possible to sync up your baking plan and your schedule with the market plan and schedule. So in our farmers market, for example, we had one themed, other than farmers, Mother's Day, Father's Day, those sorts of things. But we had one themed day, which was Christmas in July, and I leaned in way too hard this year. Everything on my table, everything was Christmas in July, and half of the people that visited my booth hated Christmas in July. partially, I think, because we live in a very cold climate. It gets to like minus 42 in the winter here. It doesn't matter if that's Celsius or Fahrenheit. Minus 42 is minus 42. And so when people think about winter, Christmas, they think about winter, and they were having none of it. So they didn't buy a thing. So in that instance, I couldn't bring that back to another market because it was the only themed market we had. And so I deeply discounted those to move them. So if your market has a theme, lean in, don't lean in like I did, would be my recommendation. Administrative stuff to consider. Okay, so how do you get their hard-earned money in your wonderful pockets? Think about the sorts of payment options you want. I offer cash, credit, and debit. I use Square. I know people use Venmo. They use all sorts of things. But I strongly urge you to get a point of sale system. Clearly, half of my business is done through my point of sale system. And I will say to you that when folks say, do you take tap? Or do you do credit? Do you do debit? They inevitably buy more from me than if they just had $20 in their wallet. So Square is like 0.5% of my sales. It's nothing. It's nothing. You can't even buy a coffee for that. So well worth it. And advertise that all over the place. So I would say to you, where possible, try and have that available. Determining how much money you want in your float, and I'm getting kind of in the weeds here a little bit, but it's important because if you decide to go down this road, you need to know that you should have a cash box that locks clearly. And my magic number is $250. And the majority of that is in $1, $2, and $5. I only keep a couple of 10s and a couple of 20s. And if somebody shows up with a $100 bill at 5 minutes after the market opens, I say I can't make change for that. I'm sorry, but I'll happily take credit or debit. I try not to take really large bills, like nothing over 50, mostly because it uses up all of my cash. I have yet to run out of change, but my vendor neighbor to me is always out of change. She doesn't keep a good float and is always asking us to make change. Where I can, I do, but I have to tell you that I don't do it at the peril of my own sales, ever. Think about okay, so now you know what you want to sell. Now you need to figure out how you're going to package it. So your sugar cookies are going to be in their cello bags, right? You're going to heat seal them. I would strongly recommend a heat sealer. When you just put twist ties on, they don't stay fresh. Literally, my cookies will stay fresh for 2 solid weeks, like I baked them that morning, because I heat seal them. The trickier thing was cupcakes, particularly individual cupcakes. So I buy most of my packaging from Amazon because it tends to be cheaper. But for single cupcakes, I didn't know what to do. So I did a bunch of research on the internet. Somebody far smarter than me said, take a solo cup with a lid, turn it upside down. Here's the solo cup lid. Put the cupcake and put the cup on top. Beautiful. And it cost me, I think, 1 cent per package. So look for innovative ways to keep your packaging costs down because it is expensive. And the other thing that I do is I ask people, are you going to eat it now or would you like it packaged? Just kind of nudge them a little bit towards, do you want to eat it now? When it comes to packaging, I mentioned earlier, fancy, not fancy, not fancy. Unless it's a holiday, do not spend your money, your hard-earned money and your time on putting little bows and stuff. It is not worth the money. I can tell you right now, I've done it and I don't get my return on investment. My ROI on that goes in the toilet. The kids eat the cookie. The parents throw the bow out in the garbage right beside me. It made me crazy. So I want to talk about time. So time. Therein lies the rub, right? We all struggle with how to manage all of it. we're empty nesters now. Our both of our girls are gone. We have grandkids, and they come over once a month for the weekend, and everybody comes for dinners and all that sort of thing. But I'm not dealing with a small family and all of that responsibility. We have fur babies, and they're a lot of work, but they're not like having children in the home. So figuring out ways to manage your time is probably one of the most important things all of us can do when it comes to running our own businesses. And for me, I live by my schedule. So I mentioned earlier, I was an executive. I had an office full of people who managed me. Bonnie, you need to go to that boardroom. Bonnie, you need to meet with that association, whatever. And wind me up and point me in the right direction. I'm being a little facetious, but you know what I mean. Like, I had people. So then I retired, and my first thing was like, who the hell is everybody? Who's looking after my calendar? Who's doing all these things? And it was shocking. It was shocking how much work admin work is, how much time you use for admin work as being a farmer's market vendor. An excellent vendor, I should add. So, here's what eats up my time. So I want to give you an example. Social media. I post every single day on all my social media platforms. So I only do that once a week, and then I schedule it. I have signage for every single thing on my table. Every drop cookie. Bye, Julie. Thank you. I have signage for every single thing on my table, and so it's a matter of all the work that goes into that signage. Packaging, you have to schedule that in. I do a price list each week because my husband helps me at the booth, and I want to make sure that he knows what things cost. Data analysis. Social media, right, Sabrina? Oh my God. I'm getting smarter though. I invested in Canva, fabulous product to help me do my posting, and I subscribe to Simplified. So I plug in all of my information. It helps me with my really cute text, and I recycle constantly. I keep a big, huge document, like a Word document, with all of my posts, and I highlight the ones that I've already used, and I just cut and paste and I recycle them to try and cut down on cost. Data analysis, that really takes a lot of time. Now, we got going just a few minutes late. I don't have too much longer, but if you have to go, that's perfectly fine. I'm going to stay until we're done this and then take questions. So please, I'm not going to be insulted if you have to scoot, but please feel free to stay if you can. Before each market, I take a full inventory of what I'm bringing. You saw my little spreadsheet. And then after the market, I have to fill in all that information, and then I plug it into my larger spreadsheet where I look at what sold, what didn't sell, those sorts of things. And then ingredient costing spreadsheets. So what are things costing me to go to the market? And am I still making a profit? And as prices increase, am I comfortable in raising my prices? I haven't so far. I think I'm right at the top end of the sweet spot for my baking, and I think I would probably start losing customers if I went much higher. So my data tells me, my husband likes to joke, Walmart is the bane of our existence. I don't know what Walmart is like. Marge, you're hilarious. Walmart is the bane of our existence. It is, in my opinion, probably one of the most unpleasant experiences in the world, unless you're there at 2 minutes after they open. It's not so. There's no staff, and so my husband has a theory that Walmart knows exactly how much annoyance somebody will put up with, go over that limit, and then back it up just a little bit, and then that's the Walmart secret. We have kind of a similar kind of secret, if you will, about our pricing. Your pricing may be different than mine, but I can tell you what my market client base will bear, and I kind of know where that is. The other thing I think it's really important to think about is what tools you need. So I burnt out two of the really big KitchenAid mixers my first year, because cookie dough is freaking heavy. And the KitchenAid just couldn't do it. Lots of chatter in the baking with sugar cookie marketing group about favorite mixers. Bosh. love my Bosch. I don't have space in my kitchen for one of those, massive industrial ones. I just have two Bosches, one named Billy Bosch Thornton and one named Bosch Nova. And Billy Bosch Thornton is my cookie dough, and Bosch Nova is all of my frostings and my royal icing, and they're the exact same mixer. It's just they're going at the same time. And then I have a third mixer that is just available, in case one of those one of my Bosches breaks down. But that's costly, having all that. We have 4 freezers. Oh my God. So, an upright freezer, is a lot of money. I know. Billy Bosch Thornton. I couldn't help it. I have to name everything. We invested in a 3D printer. I was buying cookie cutters my first year, and I was spending a fortune on them. Like, even if you go to Bulk Barn or Hobby Lobby down in the States or wherever, you were dropping, $1 to $5 on a cookie cutter, and they certainly don't carry my adult ones. And so we invested in a 3D printer, and so I can design my own cookie cutters, and we can print them. My husband prints them. And that was a really good investment, frankly, because I can have like the most personalized cookies. And again, that differentiates me from other bakers. So that's really important. So Eddie might be your boyfriend, but Edwina is my girlfriend, and she is just a cutie pie, and she is my workhorse. So if you are going to continue doing custom orders, and I would suggest to you, don't turn away all custom orders during farmers market season, but be careful, right, so you don't burn yourself out. I nudge my clients towards printed cookies during market season. And I keep in my freezer a slew of flooded and ready to go circles, ovals, and squares and rectangles. And if I get a customer who says, can I get birthday cookies, I'll say, hey, if you send me the birthday person's photo, I can put it on a cookie for you. Oh my God, isn't that amazing? And I get them all excited, and it's like, yes, that's fabulous. And it takes me 4 minutes to do 50 cookies. So if you haven't invested in an Eddie, it is a huge cost investment, and I know that. But Edwina is she's a gal. I just love her to pieces. I have a Cricut maker. Cecilia, my Cricut, she is my workhorse as well. And frankly, if she died, I would lay down and cry. I do all my tags, all my bag toppers, all my signage. I do all my, fancier things that I'm handing out. I do it all on my Cricut. And you get really good at Cricut pretty quickly. I pay for design space. I'm not paid to do any of these endorsements, Bosch, Eddie, Cricut, none of it. But I will tell you that, in my opinion, when people visit my booth, they will comment on the backdrop. They will comment on my brand, which is Pink Central. They will comment on my signage. And if it's a given holiday, they will always, 100% of the time, comment on how amazing the tags are. So where do I get my stuff for my tags? I also subscribe for the paid version of Creative Fabrica. You name it, they have a graphic for everything. And if you do have an Eddie or an Edwina, then you can use those to print right on your cookies. And it's spectacular. It's really, really good. Okay, we're almost done. Okay, market day. So it's market day. You're super excited. You've done all this baking. You have got inventory that you think is going to sell. You are going to get there early. I am always one of the first people at the market because I want to make sure I am all set up, because I have customers who come before the market arrives. And we let customers in usually about half an hour before the market actually opens. And they show up at least a half an hour early. And they will come and they will buy like a dozen cupcakes out of my 36 of a given flavor. And they will buy 12 cookies. So I am always early. And at the end of every market, I scour my entire booth. I sweep everything up. I cover everything with an old bed sheet. So have an old bed sheet, keep them lying around, cover your entire booth so you don't get any dust or anything. And I just make sure that I'm there early and I set everything up. Um, I talk up fellow vendors and they talk me up. I give away free things to the market, and the market manager talks me up. I tag the market, so it's Metcalf Farmers Market. I tag Metcalf Farmers Market in 100% of every one of my social media posts. And only about 5% of my posts are ego posts. So, hey, look what I can do. Hey, look at what I did. The rest are engagement questions. They are, tell me about a movie that you could watch over and over again. Fun things like, tell me the last thing you ate, and if you were on a deserted island and it was the last thing you ever ate, would you be happy eating it? Like silly things like that. There's tons of them on the internet. I tag the market in every one of my posts. Because I do that, I am their number one vendor. And when you have number one vendor status, it doesn't mean that it's in sales. It's in engagement and drumming up business. So if you have that ability, I strongly urge you to do that. Don't worry about other bakers. As a matter of fact, I went around and introduced myself to the other bakers and suggested we, try and complement each other's baking. The other gluten-free baker, she and I did that all through the seasons, and it has worked really well. Some are less receptive to that, and that's okay. Not everybody's in it for, community. Some people really do feel that sense of competition, and that's okay. I did talk a little bit about prices, but I would say to you, at our market, we are not allowed to do discount pricing towards the end of the market. So if I've got a lot of inventory, come back to like the Christmas in July day, I'm not bringing that back. I'm not bringing it back. So rather than $5 a cookie, I'd really like to charge $3 a cookie and get it off my table and out of my freezer. Our market doesn't allow us to do that. So check with your market if you're allowed to do that. The other thing we're not allowed to do is have competitions and contests outside of the market. So check with your market manager and see. I think that what's really, really, really important, and it must be really important because I've said it 3 times, is don't get discouraged by a slow day. I know the first year I did, and I was super sad. Like, nobody likes my stuff anymore. I've saturated the market with my sugar cookies. That's not true. It's over the season. It's not a given day. So remember, you're in it for the long haul. I would say to you, if you don't have a brand, think about your brand. Doesn't have to be pink. Doesn't have to be, I don't know. Maybe you live in New Mexico and cacti are your things. Whatever. But have something that clients can be easily pointed to. Look for the pink booth with the pink banner. We're all in pink. The name of our business is, and I have one of those roll-up banners. I just had Staples do it for me. It was relatively cheap, but I have my QR codes on them. I have my business cards, right, all ready to hand out. The other thing I would say to you is do not leave business cards on your table. Kids take them and turf them, and they're expensive. Have them kind of back a little bit and hand them out as people ask for them. If they ask for them, they're interested. If they're on the table, it's almost like a social contract. Well, somebody will take one and walk away and feel, like they've done the polite thing, but it's just cost you money. So don't leave business cards lying around. And so I would say to you that if you have a brand and people recognize your brand, there's something so satisfying with people saying, I saw your social media post. Oh my God, I'm here. You said find the pink booth. I'm at the pink booth. So really, I can't stress that enough. That's marketing 101 though, right? Know your brand. Pardon me, I'm just going to take a little drink because I've been yakking. Buy the backdrops from Amazon if you can. They range in price from $15 a panel. My Christmas ones were $25 a panel, I think. And I only buy 2 of them. And I say to people, look for the booth with Santa panel behind it, right? Santa backdrop. They will find you. They will find you. The other thing about market day is have a plan when you have an interaction that doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel good. You have somebody who is cranking at you about your prices. And we had a really unfortunate customer interaction this summer, very first time ever. But we had a very cranky mom. She had twin newborns in a stroller, and she had a toddler. And, well, toddler, he was about 3.5 or 4. And that mom was clearly sleep deprived, and she was spoiling for a fight. And her son wanted a cookie. He manhandled a cookie and broke it. And so I said, well, it's broken. You'll need to buy that. And she left kind of cranky, and then she came back to my booth about 10 minutes later. I'd served I don't know how many customers between then. She came back. It took me a minute to recognize her because she didn't have her babies or her son with her. And in a very loud voice, she told me she was not happy with that interaction, that she felt trapped, as if she would pay $5 for a cookie, and like she really went off on me. And it took me off guard. And I wasn't prepared for it. And I was a little bit like a deer in the headlights. And so my husband was standing beside me, and he just stepped in really calmly and said, you obviously feel quite strongly about that. Thank you for your feedback. We'll keep that under advisement. And she kept at it, and she was raising her voice, and to the point where people were turning her head. And my husband stayed super calm, and just said, thank you very much for your feedback. You obviously feel very strongly about that. And then just stopped talking, because we weren't going to argue with her. There's no point in arguing with somebody when they're spoiling for a fight. And she said some nasty words, and off she went, and she'd never been back. But it didn't hurt my business. As a matter of fact, I had a couple of people come up and say, are you okay? Oh my God, that was terrible. So just have a plan for how you might deal with somebody if they're difficult. And then be an active and pleasant vendor colleague. Really, truly try and, chat with other vendors. I do a walkabout when I first get there in the morning after I'm all set up, and say good morning to everybody, and, chat with everybody. And then, throughout the day, I'll make a point of going to see other vendors. They will talk you up if you are friendly and collegial. So I think that's really, quite helpful. The other thing is, on market day, your friends and family are going to come visit you. Isn't that lovely? That's lovely. They come and visit you, and then they stand right in front of your booth. and you're like, can you over to the side? And so you start kind of moving over to the side like this, and they stay in front of your booth. So now what I say to folks is, oh, come on over here so we can catch up for a minute, but I only have a minute. Like if you've got a lull in the market, great, but be prepared that when people come, they stand right in front of your booth and they block other customers. So have a strategy for how you're going to move people off to the side a little bit. So some of the things that I recommend you have on hand, business cards I talked about, your photo book of samples, order forms, make sure you have those handy. Your ingredients list, that's a mandatory for pretty well every farmer's market. A menu plan so that people know what's likely coming up the next week, particularly important for people with allergies. They will ask you if you plan to have a nut-free table next week, or will you have gluten-free, or will you have dairy-free, or they'll make requests, and you'll say, okay, I'll put that in the rotation, not for next week, because you've probably already baked for next week, but, kind of coming up. Have scissors and a stapler, because things will rip, things will break, and you'll want to make sure that you are able to quickly repair things. Wet wipes for kids who are sticky. Parents love that, and they will visit your booth again because you have them. And have Lysol wipes, because people will spill stuff on your booth. It will happen. So lots of paper towels. For us, it's mandatory to have a hand washing station. So I just got one of these little water jugs from Amazon with a spout, and I have a Home Depot bucket, and I have a bar of soap, and I wash my hands every time I deal with anything to do with money. And then garbage bags. Okay, we're at the final kind of closing thoughts. I wouldn't be here talking to you if I didn't think farmers market vending is a great experience. It is. But you need to be prepared in my scenario, 2 drops, 2 sugar, 2 cupcakes. So minimum 2 cupcakes, minimum 2 sugars. That represents roughly 35 to 40 hours a week in work to do everything, social media, packaging, you name it. It's almost a full-time job. So I love it. I love market day. I love market day. By Friday, I ask myself every week, what the hell am I doing? Why am I doing this? Why am I doing this? I've just retired. Why am I doing this? But then market day comes and I love it. So it is a lot of fun. Don't estimate how much work goes into getting to those, 4 hours, and make sure that you plan for it. And then also look at your business, right? Are you willing to keep going with your custom orders separate from that? Choosing the right farmer's market for you is really important. So I talked about some of the things you might want to ask yourself. And I would say to you that if you can answer those questions and still feel like a given market, so not just markets, but a given market is the right place for you, apply. You could say no. You could say, I've given it some thought, it's not for me. But it's probably worth putting your hat in the ring. And I can't stress enough to talk to other food vendors at the market you're considering. Food vendors, not vendors alone, food vendors. I don't know if you're aware, there's a fantastic Facebook group called That's a Sweet Booth. That's a Sweet Booth is the name of it. And it's only about baked good farmers market booths. You'll learn a ton from it. I did. They're really, really good, and they're really helpful. You have to know your own worth and, be confident in what you do. You have to be comfortable with active sales. Only you can answer that question, whether or not you are or not. And then the last thing on my musings about becoming a farmer's market is this is my approach to farmer's market. It's not the definitive approach, but it's things that I have learned, and I've been pretty successful. I can tell you that last year's farmer's market paid for us to spend a month in the UK this summer, and this year's farmer's market is sending us to Iceland, Greenland, and Norway for a month next year. So it's pretty lucrative if you can do it well. Okay, so I have rambled on for an hour and 17 minutes, and I'm happy to stay for questions. And just want to know how folks are doing. Was this what you were hoping for? Were there things that you were hoping I would cover that I didn't? No comments? Okay, well, if there aren't any comments, Marge says she took 6 pages of notes. God bless you, Marge. I actually have all of this typed up. All of it. And I will send it to Heather and ask her to include it in your in the files, along with a little presentation that I had done. Thank you, Erica. Read it at your leisure. Rewatch this as many times as you'd like. Curious if I've ever had issues with the organizer of an event. Like the farm, Sabrina, are you talking about the farmer's market manager? The organizer of an event. So I only vend at one farmer's market. No, we have a fantastic farmer's market manager. She's one of my biggest fans, and I'm one of her biggest fans. She is phenomenal at what she does, and I'm super easygoing. You want something one way, as long as it fits within my brand and what I had envisioned for my booth, I don't care. It doesn't faze me at all. I am steadfast that I have to be in the same location week after week. I will not change my location. I've been there for several years now, and people know me. Other than that, yeah, no, I'm pretty adaptable. But I've never had issues with the farmers market manager or or other vendors. So specifically one that virtually promised attendance and then when rained out and didn't do anything to support our efforts. So that sounds as though you had an issue with the farmer's market manager. Virtually promised attendance and then when rained out didn't do anything to support our efforts. Sorry, Sabrina, I'm not quite understanding the question. I've not experienced that because I'm an indoor vendor. As in we baked, oh, yes. Oh, sorry, now I get what you're saying. Last year we had at Easter a horrific storm. Folks in the States, I know you see a lot of hurricanes, and so when I say horrific storm, please forgive me. I don't mean to be insensitive, but we had a storm where it wiped out power through all of Ottawa for days. There were trees down everywhere. There was, we had a hurricane that whipped through Ottawa, and it was Easter, and I had about 1,500 cookies and baked goods, and it wasn't like I was going to be able to sell them again. So I held a pop-up in my garage, and I advertised it. The farmer's market advertised it for me. I let another vendor come and join me. She baked pies and butter tarts, so nothing direct competition to me. And it was in my garage. Like, I gotta be honest, it's a garage, right? We've got, we play golf, so golf stuff everywhere. We've got grandkids, so it's got, toys and stuff everywhere. I tidied it as best as I could, and I set up tables, and you know what? I sold out. I sold out. So I think that if you look for creative ways to have an ability to sell your inventory, I think it's really helpful. No, I don't have insurance other than, my home insurance. Again, I'm not a licensed bakery, and I don't need to be for our farmers market because I fall under the farmers market vendor umbrella. So people came to my garage, and I mean, I have homeowner insurance, but they came. I'm really sorry, Sabrina. That sounds like you were just left in a lurch with 1,509 items. I hope you were able to move it. Not only, as you say, it wasn't just the inventory, but it was also, the cost of the venue. That just is really quite crappy. You're very welcome, Marge. I hope, Sabrina, that, maybe that isn't the right market for you then. Maybe you look at that. Okay, any other questions? Okay. Thank you so much for sticking with me an hour 22. Oh, how heavily do you rely on QR codes? Not very, actually. So we are not required to have a QR code and an ingredients list on the back of all of our packaging in our farmers market. I have QR codes for my business. I don't have them on a product basis. Oh, you're very welcome, Sabrina. But there are, when you run a commercial kitchen, you do have to have QR codes that list your ingredients and your public health certificate and stuff. But no, I don't have to have that. You're very welcome, Rachel. Have a great evening. Any other last minute questions? Okay. I wish you all a wonderful evening. Stay well, stay healthy, stay safe, and happy baking. Basha Nova and I are signing out.